Hi, Eric Gibaud, ericgibaud.com, and today, thanks to photosware.com, I'm going to present you the Nikon Coolpix P950. Let's start. A couple of years ago, I made a video about the review of the Nikon P1000. I'll leave you the link here. And many people love that camera because of the maxi zoom you have from the equivalent of 24 to 3000 millimeter. But still, not everyone needed such a big zoom. Not everyone had the money for that kind of camera, and not everyone could bear the weight of that camera. So I think it was a good idea that last year Nikon made the P950, which is a bit smaller, lighter, and the zoom is less. It goes the equivalent full frame from 24 up to 2000 millimeter, which is not little. It's quite a bit already, okay? And if you go to digital zoom, then you can go up to 8000 millimeter. So it has a sensor of 16 million pixels. This is a 2/3 inch sensor, which is small. It's a kind of sensor sometimes you find on smartphone. So some people will probably think, why don't you put a larger sensor in this camera? Yes, you could. You have the space here, but then the zoom lens would be like 1 or 2 meters long. That would not be possible. If you wanted a large sensor with such a zoom, you would need really something massive, okay? The aperture goes from 2.8 at the widest angle up to 6.5 f6.5 maximum aperture at the longest focal length, okay? But if you want to close more, the maximum is f8. So for some people that may be a problem. Many bridge camera limit to f8, and it means that sometimes you will need to put an ND filter to cut light because you cannot close more and you have too much light. By the way, I just said bridge camera. This is a bridge camera. It means you cannot change the lens. It's a fixed lens, massive lens, fixed lens, but you cannot change it. It does video 4K, but I'll come back to that in a second. You have a viewfinder with optical correction here if you want. The viewfinder is fine. I liked it. Okay, that's okay. The screen, you can turn the screen here to do the typical vlogging. I didn't do any vlogging test, okay, but you can imagine how it is. They're always the same, okay. And it's not touchable. I've seen some places where it says touchable, but to me it's not touchable, okay. So I don't know why. Bit strange, but that's okay. It's not touchable. Many bridge camera don't let you do RAW file format. This one does, so you can do JPEG and RAW file. So that is big difference with the Sony HS400, which is a great camera, but it goes the equivalent of 1200 zoom, I think. But in this case, you don't have RAW file. So if you need it, you have it here. Obviously, when you use a camera like this, you need something really stable. Because at 2000 millimeter, if you move just a bit, it goes zoom, 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 like if you're using binoculars like this, and goes, okay. So there is stabilization, 5.5 stops. I think it's really good. I'll show you a video I made from widest angle to the longest, and it's handheld. I think it's not bad, but obviously, if you want to do serious video, you will probably need to use a tripod if you're using the maximum zoom, because it will move otherwise. I'll give you a link of K&F Concept tripod. I made a review a short time ago. I guess if you want to have a look, that kind of tripod is fine, okay? Well, if we look at the camera, the zoom is really massive. Look at this. But not as big as the P1000, okay? Well, like you have two buttons. You have one here to activate the zoom, and then you have another one here. And you can actually put different speed on each. So it means if you want to do video, for example, and you really want to move slow or fast, you can have a different speed. And also there's a button here to recall the zoom to go back quickly to where it was just before, okay? And also you can configure the camera so when you switch it on, it starts at a given focal length. If you're doing bird photography, for example, and you want to be on 500 millimeter, you switch off the camera. When you switch it on, you can have it to start straight away on 500 millimeter. You don't have to zoom in more than this. Okay, it's already done. So that's good. Speaking about zoom, there's one thing that is great. You have a different mode, but you also have a mode thought for the moon, okay, and one for birds. So I'll come back to this just after. Connectivity, you can connect with Wi-Fi or Bluetooth to your any app, okay. And connectivity, I'm going to speak the USB connector. It's a micro USB. I don't know why they did not put a USB-C. That would be more logical, what most people want right now. But it's not really the problem. The problem is I'm really angry at Nikon, Sony, Fujifilm. They don't give proper charger. In the case of Fujifilm, they don't even give you any charger. They give you a cable, okay? But in this case, this is a typical charger. You have to plug in the USB connector to charge a battery. So I think this is a problem. If I've got two batteries, I finish one and I want to carry on making picture, I would maybe like to have my battery charging. For that, I need to pay for an extra specific charger. Where I can actually remove the battery from here and place it in the charger. But the standard charger, you need to connect to USB port of your camera to be charging. So I'm really angry at that, especially when you see the battery life. On one charge you get 290 pictures, which is really little, the same as the P1000. Obviously it's logical because a zoom like this consumes a lot of energy, and obviously if you have a camera like this, you're going to be touching the zoom very often to do close-up and things like this, so it will drain the battery really fast. So even more reason to have a proper charger. And then if you do videos, the battery will last about 1 hour and 20 minutes. Focusing, well, two things. I really like the fact that you can manual focus. Here you have a button here, so you can actually focus manually here, and you have to switch to a manual focus. And otherwise, the autofocus is a contrast autofocus, contrast detection, doesn't do phase detection. I made some tests in a very even color situation, like the width here. I'll show you the picture, and it worked really well. But when you go to autofocus with low light, then you have a serious problem. It will be really hard to focus. So then you can go on to manual focus, and you actually have peaking indication to exactly where it's focusing, okay? But you need to know that, okay? Video, it does video 4K in 30 and 25 frames per second. You don't have 24 frames per second. So if you're in the US or in Canada or some South American country where you have 60 hertz electricity system and you want to have 24 frames per second to be a multiply or that, you won't have it. So that may be a problem, okay? In full HD 1080p, you get 60, 50, 30 and 25 frames per second. Now let's speak about the ISO. You have several auto ISO. You can actually fine-tune to go from this to that and this, but anyway, basic ISO start at 100 ISO, it goes up to 6400. I'll show you some test pictures. I think it's okay up to 800 ISO. That's acceptable, usable. From then, that's really a problem. And this is a problem for many bridge cameras. Take into account that on many smartphones you have a similar sensor, but you have a lot of artificial intelligence in your smartphone that will clean many things. On this, you don't have that such clever camera, so I think over 800 ISO that won't be that great. Let's speak about frame rate. If you want to do a burst picture action photography, it makes up to 7 frames per second, which is really acceptable. I think that's fine. Okay. The speed. Well, the speed is, I'm a bit confused with the way Nikon have set this up. The speed, depending on the ISO you are, on the focal length you are, it goes from 1 second up to 1/2000th of a second, but also you can go from 30 seconds up to 1/4000th of a second. So it depends on a situation. It was not too clear to me. So, okay, and if you compare to the P1000, that goes up to 1/8000th of a second. So if you look at the maximum speed of 1/4000th of a second and the maximum aperture you can close of f8, sometimes you will have too much light and you will need to have an ND filter to cut the light there. You have a small flash here, okay, and also a proper hot shoe. The great news is that flash synchronizes at every speed. It means if you want to make portrait outdoor with the sun and want to make picture of 1/4000th of a second, it will synchronize. So this is great. You don't have to go to HSS or whatever. It will synchronize. I love it. Back to connectivity. You have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. I think I said it before. If you speak about USB, say it was a micro USB and not a C, you have HDMI connector and you have a microphone connector here, just here, okay, but you don't have any headphone connector. And I think this is a problem because I normally don't use when I record that kind of video because I see the level, but on this camera, once you start recording, you don't see the level anymore, so you don't know where you're going, and you can't even fine-tune anything recording the sound. So that's really a problem. So you don't even have a headphone to check if the sound is okay. So if you're really picky about sound, maybe this camera is a problem. You should probably use an external recorder for that. The weight, 1005 grams. That's okay, 1 kilo, okay? That's okay for what it gives. I think it's not light. Some people who think, well, I get a kind of camera, I can do every kind of picture, I go walking in the mountain for 8 hours. Yeah, well, make sure you can carry 1 kilo extra. Maybe you should go with a bag of rice of 1 kilo and see if the weight is okay, or carry it around your neck or in your bag, okay, to check. But it's true that if you want to make an animal in the mountain, maybe this is really good to have that with you, okay? But otherwise, maybe it's a bit heavy. It depends on you more than on me, okay? But I think for what it offers, weight is really reasonable. And if you are getting a reflex camera with a 500 millimeter zoom or 600 millimeter, imagining you can pay for it or you want it, it will be a lot larger and a lot more heavy than that. So let's speak about digital zoom. Actually, the maximum zoom you get optical is 2000 millimeter equivalent, but then if you go on bird mode or moon mode, it can go up to 8000 millimeter, and this is really massive, but this is digital. And if you're in the moon mode, you have two things. I could not do make picture of the moon because it was all cloudy all the time, okay? But if you're on the moon mode, then in this case you can also pick fine-tune the white balance with colors, okay? And then it will delay the shoot. And when you press the trigger, it takes about a couple of seconds before the shoot. You make actually the shooting, okay? It means that you will need a tripod because if you point at the moon and you have to keep like this a couple of seconds before it shoots, it's a problem. So yes, you need a tripod, but you have this, okay? But one thing, when you are in a bird mode and moon mode, I'm not sure if I made the wrong configuration, but in this case I did. When I tested, although it was not a moon there, when I tested, I do get a JPEG file and not a RAW file. So I'm not sure that you can get a RAW file using the digital zoom. It seems to me that it doesn't let you have it. I could also do some macro, well, close up, call that proxy. So I show you some, and that was okay. What is the big, massive problem of using a 2000 millimeter zoom? Well, the problem is not this camera. The problem is any tele lens. When you go over, sometimes even with 300 millimeters, you already have some problem. Is the atmosphere, the air must be really clean. I don't speak about pollution only. I speak also about stability. About if it's hot, then the air goes up like this. So I show you an example with a wide angle like this. Then when I go to 2000 millimeter, you see the house is blurry. Why? Because the air is moving. So in this case, I had a landing track in between. So even if it was cold, even then the air was going up because a small bit of sun already was heating up the track. Okay. So I made another test without having this track in the middle. Same thing. You can see on the boat the logo is shaky because the air is actually moving. So many people buy that kind of camera thinking, well, I can do anything. I get my camera, I can do any kind of picture. Doesn't matter if it's far, close, I can do it. Yes and no. I said, obviously, in theory, yes, but in normal life, it's really rare that the air is not moving. So it means 2000 millimeter is not to make picture of something that is really far. So, you know, something is not that big and is at a mid-range. For example, a bird that is at 50 meter, or a flower you cannot reach because it's in a bush or whatever, and it's at 10 meters or something like that. Yes, okay. But if you are thinking of making pictures always at maximum zoom to get people or things that are really far, that's a problem. People who are thinking of being a paparazzi and making picture of the neighbor, they should check the legal side of it, but also they should check the fact that it's really hard to get proper picture really sharp because the air is moving, okay? You also have a scene mode like a portrait, food, sport, all this, the typical. So my conclusion about this camera. Well, there are three kind of people, or 4, 5 kind of people who want a camera. Some people want a camera to learn how to make pictures. And they tell them, you need a camera that must be able to do manual mode. This one does. So many people think this camera don't do manual mode. Yes, you can. Speed, all this. The buttons are really well placed. Okay, you have the aperture here, you have the speed here. It's nice. The recording button is well placed. All this. Maybe I would have preferred that this a bit lower. The zoom control, all this a bit lower here. Okay, but doesn't matter. So, it's okay in hand, the grip, all this. It's okay, and you can do manual mode, so they will be happy. Manual mode, aperture priority, speed priority, P mode, all this. Okay, that's fine. And so you have people who wanted that, they can have that with this. Some people, they really want the best optical quality. Maybe they will be disappointed because if they want to push the ISO or in situation where it's a bit lower light or this, quality won't be as good as a reflex or some mirrorless camera. But in that time, you probably won't see any difference, okay? So that will be acceptable. But when light goes down, that's maybe a problem. And then there are some people, what they want is to have fun, to have result easy. Doesn't mean to work in automatic, they can work in manual, but they want something versatile. They can get the camera, something far, something close, they get it, they can get a bird, they can do the moon. They want to have fun. They don't pretend to be artists, they don't pretend to be paparazzi, they just have fun. And this camera is great. So very often I say that to people who tell me, I just bought a reflex camera, but changing lenses is, I don't like it. What kind of all-in-one lens could I buy? And I say, you should have not buy a reflex camera. They are thought to change lenses. Same as many mirrorless cameras. They are thought to change lenses. I get the best lenses for each job. So you should have bought a bridge camera. And yes, many people should consider buying a bridge camera because it's all-in-one. You can do many things with it. You can have a lot of fun, except in extreme situation of really low light. If it's high, too much light, you can always put a filter here. Okay, so I really recommend that kind of camera to people who want something to do about everything and really have fun. I think price wise, it's not as cheap as a small compact camera. It's not as cheap as a basic reflex camera. But if you take into account the lens you can get, it's fine. Think that the cheapest 500mm for a reflex camera is probably about the price of this camera. I speak about the cheapest, not the best, the cheapest, okay? It's about the price of its camera on itself. It's not as long focal length than what this offers. So I really recommend this camera. In fact, I already recommended the P1000, but I think this one is even better. Actually, of all Nikon bridge camera, I've tested many. To me, they all are bad, except the P1000 and this one. Even the P900 was a nightmare focusing, really big problem. This one really go fine. So the P1000 and P950 are really great cameras to have fun and make pictures. So I really recommend it. So Thank you very much, Photosura, for lending me the camera. Thank you to you for watching the video. If you feel it may interest other people, please share it on social networks. If you have not done it yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, the small button down here, and also a small bell. If you click on the bell, get notified when I upload a new video. My website, ericgibaud.com. If you have any question, can leave a comment below. Also leave you links of my gear on Amazon, links to other parts of my YouTube channel, and also link to my PayPal account in case you wanted to make a donation. Thank you very much. Please take care of yourself and see you soon. Bye.